This is part 1 of Access Module 2 SAM Project 1A. This is quite an extensive assignment, so it will be broken up into several parts. I've already opened up the start file and I've renamed it, and I've got my instructions open. I just need to enable content. And you'll see that they have several tables and queries already created. And that looks pretty much what we've got, tables and queries. So over here, just remember to change the 1 to a 2 at the end of the name. There is a support file that you have to download. It ends with umbrella data, and it is a spreadsheet. And the first thing they want you to do is open up your grading info table. Whoops, this thing is jumping as crazy it can possibly be. Okay, see if I can make it go a little slower. So open up grading info table, and again, just make sure that your name, I'm going to get rid of the field list, not quite sure why it popped up, but make sure your first and last name's there and that you have an assignment GUID there. And then you can close that one out. Now, we're working for Personal Insurance Incorporated, a national company, and it looks like they offer insurance to homeowners and renters, and also offers an umbrella policy that provides additional coverages. So, we're going to create a query based on the customer's table in Query Design with the following options. So, create a query, and it's going to be based on the customer's table. If you can go ahead and have it highlighted, it will help a little bit in the creation of that query. But create, we have a query wizard and query design. They said to use query design. And then we get our show table. If you've read through and or worked through the module for the textbook project, and you've at least done your already forgotten what they're called, the other homework assignment where you kind of walk through the process. You'll know all about the show table dialog box, and you select which table or tables you want to pull your data from to create a query. So we're going to choose customers, and we'll add it. And you can't see it here, but if I move that away, you can tell that it is added to the top of the grid. This is called a QBE, or Query by Example grid. You'll have the tables listed up at the top with their different fields, including which one's a primary key. And then at the bottom, you can set up your criteria, which fields you want to see, the order you want to see them in, from which table they come from, and then set up conditions or criteria on selecting the records you wish to see. Since we're only going to use the customer's table, we can close this show table box. You should always resize your window here so that you can see all of your field names. And of course, you can tell customer ID is the primary key of the customer's table because of the key symbol that's listed there. So it says here we want to add the customer ID, first name, last name, and date of birth fields to the design grid in that order. So customer ID, you just have to double click on them and then they'll pop them in place. First name, last name, and then they want date of birth. Now I'm going to have to click down here and kind of scroll so you can see that I have all 4 fields in there. Now it says here to sort the records in ascending order by last name. Now you see that there's a sort row here in this grid area. There's first name field. We want to do it by last name. So we click inside the sort box and we choose, let's see, the ascending order for last name. And we're going to save the query using customer last name sorted as the name. Wow, what a lovely long name that is. So what we're going to do is just go up here to save it. Query 1 is the default name. We're going to save it as customer last name sorted, capitalizing the first letter of each word and running them all together. Camel casing. And we'll save it. Now, open the query in data sheet view What you basically do can just run it. So you can run in the results group. There's a run button with a big old exclamation point on it. And what you want to see is that you have just those fields that you asked for: customer ID, first name, last name, date of birth, for all those records. And you have 50 of them. So if you were to scroll down, you would see you had all 50 of your records. Now, after we have opened it and looked at it, we can close it. We can go ahead and close it because we saved it already. Save it only if you're prompted to. Now that's step 1. So that's the first query. Step 2 says open the homeowner's premium query in design view and make the following changes. So we're looking for homeowner's premium, and let's see here. This is a query that's already there. So I'm going to right click on it and choose design view. Now I'm going to again make this big enough for me to see all the fields. I'll widen them too if I need to. And it says that we want to delete the customer ID column from the design grid. So here's customer ID. Now you'll see a little gray bar that runs above the field names. And that little gray bar is a selector tool for those columns. See the little downward pointing arrow when I'm pointing at the little gray bar? If you'll click on that, it highlights that entire column. So if you wanted to right click where that little gray bar used to be, you could, let's see here. Well, usually, used to, there was a delete. So what we'll do instead is we'll just select that and we'll hit the delete key on the keyboard, and it'll make it go away faster. There are delete buttons up here, but we're so scrunched together it's hard to see them. Okay, delete column. Add criteria to select only those records where the premium field is greater than 2,000. So let's just scroll till we find, I guess we have to go back to the left, the premium field. I'm going to click in the criteria box, and we're going to type the greater than symbol. Make sure you get the right one. And then type in 2,000. You do not put in the comma. It's not required. Then when you run this, you'll have 8 records, it looks like. Let's just see if that's what they have. Well, they don't really say, but let's take a look at it. Are the premiums all greater than 2,000? And they are. So, now that we've done that, it says save the changes. So we're not changing the name, but we're just going to save the changes. And we're asked to open in datasheet view, which we've already done. We're going to close it, and that finishes step 2. Now, number 3 has an OR criteria. So it says open the liability or property query in design view, add the criteria to select only those records where the liability field values equal 75,000 or the personal property field values equal 75,000. Save the changes, then open the query in datasheet view, and you should have 3 records when you see it. An OR says that it only has to meet one of the conditions that you've provided in order to be selected. So let's see how we can do with this. We want to look for liability or property. So I'm going to right click on that and choose design view. I'm going to make this big enough for me to see all the fields that are in the renters table. Now, we're looking for liability field, so I'm just going to kind of scroll to the right a little bit so I can see liability and personal property. Now, in the criteria box underneath liability, it says only those records where liability values equal, so equal 75000. Now the OR is on its own special row, and it's supposed to be OR personal property equals 75,000. So equal 75,000. Notice they're on two different rows. That makes that the OR. They only have to meet one of the two conditions. And then we're going to just run it first. And we should have three records. So let's take a look, a little closer look. Liability equal to 75,000. There's one record that meets that condition. The other two records, it's the personal property that equals 75,000. So this worked correctly. We're supposed to just save our changes and then close it. We've made sure we had three records. Now I'm going to stop here and make this the end of the first part of this particular video.